What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the vlog. I'm Dookie Betts, and today we've got episode 23 for you guys. In this one, we're hopping in the car, we're driving up to southern New Hampshire, and we're gonna go play some 1-2 at the Brook. Action-packed game, a lot of good hands to cover. The action was very fun. There's a lot of fun players at the table, so we had a really good time filming this one, and hopefully you guys enjoy the video. As always, I'm going to plug the ClubGG that I've been playing in quite a bit. If you guys want to hop in there and play with me, as well as a couple other YouTubers, use the code right here. We can get you set up with a deposit bonus and a first-time bonus, so obviously you don't want to miss out on that. It's pretty much free money. There's a lot of different stakes on there. We've got 10 cent, 20 cent, all the way up to $5, $10, so plenty of good action on there. They got PLO, Hold'em, short deck, all the different variants of poker that you could ask for, they have it. So if you guys want to come in there, battle with yours truly, use the referral code and the code mentioned before, and I'll get you set up with a deposit bonus. So pretty good stuff there. That's all I really got. If you guys enjoy the video, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Let's get to 5,000 subscribers pretty soon. And without further ado, let's hop into the video and let's turn some sand into gold. Oh, I fucked it up.
Oh, you did?
We show up to the Brook around 6:15, 6:30 at night. We buy into a 1-2 game for $500. We play a couple hands at one table and pretty quickly realize that there's a very, very good 1-2 game going on a couple tables over. So we head over there. Sitting to our direct right in the one seat, we have Underdog Poker. I'm going to leave a link to his channel down below. He makes a lot of good short content, and as of late, he's been making vlogs as well, which are super entertaining to watch. So make sure to go check him out. He's one of the nicest guys out there, and he even gave me a sweatshirt with his personal brand on it. So like I said, super nice guy. Really happy that I got the opportunity to play with him and talk to him about the YouTube stuff. So that was very cool. This first hand, we sit down on the button and get a very warm welcome to the table. We're playing 1-2-5 with the $5 straddle on. We see the +1 player limp in, and I raise the button to $25.
You want to gamble? But he's smart, bro.
If you want.
Is it recording?
It's recording.
Recording on you.
All in. Don't ever tempt me with a good time. Don't ever tempt me with a good time. He said it. He said it.
He said it.
Yeah.
Mark.
You might have to edit that.
I know what you have on this.
7-8 off?
Nope. I know what he has.
Alright. I lied. I didn't really want to gamble that
No
bad.
racing with him? You don't want to race with him?
Show one. Show might have been ahead.
No, he's not. He's got 9.
If you give the dealer $2,
He's got 9.
I ain't giving him shit. No.
He's got 9.
Here, get it for the
Show
video.
the 9.
Boom!
Listen.
Yeah, so this guy shipped like $400 in with King 3 suited here. Got us to fold ace high. I mean, yeah, just looks like it's going to be a fun day for sure. About 40 minutes later, we pick up ace-king offsuit in the cutoff position. We're playing 1-2 with no straddle on this particular hand. We see a hijack open from Underdog. He goes ahead and makes things $15 to go. Obviously, we have a 3-betting hand here almost all the time with ace-king. We make it $50 to go. It folds all the way back around to Underdog Poker, and he puts in the call. So we're going vlogger v vlogger here with about $100 in the middle. In position we go, and we get a flop that's almost too good. We get ace-king 4 rainbow board. It's impossible to lose this hand unless he has pocket 4s, I think. He's never flatting a 3-bet with aces or kings, so we really only lose to 4s and we're way ahead of everything else. When he checks it over to us here, we make a somewhat costly mistake, I think. In real time, we checked, but in hindsight, I definitely want to be betting this board just with a really small size, just so I can get called on the flop by hands like 10s, 9s, 8s, and 7s, stuff like that. But nonetheless, we checked it back, playing a little bit deceptive here, but we really missed out on some value without c-betting this flop, I think. Turn rolls off the 6 of hearts, and Underdog checks once again. Sort of seems like he's ready to be done with this hand. I make another mistake here. I bet $50, which is just way too big. Similar logic to the flop. I should just be coming here with like $25, $30. I think he can peel one off here with under pairs to the ace and the king, but we made it 50, which probably pretty bad. He pretty quickly folds, and we take down the pot, adding $53 to our stack. 8 minutes later, we wake up in the straddle with Jack 9 suited. Obviously not the greatest hand you've ever seen, but we're gonna play it. Come on now. We see the small blind player limp in, and this is followed by a big blind raise to $25, once again from Underdog Poker. This is a tad bit loose, probably way too loose. We put in the call here, and the small blind calls behind, so we're going 3 ways in position with $75 in the middle. Let's see what happens. We get a flop of Jack 10-4 rainbow board. We have the backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, as well as top pair, so all things considered, really good start for our specific hand. Small blind player checks and flow over to the big blind player. Underdog decides to check here, which I thought was a little strange. I thought a lot of hands in his range would want to bet on a board like this. But Underdog also is a very strong player, so he probably is playing quite a few checks out of position here. So that being said, when it gets over to me, I think we could go either way here. Checking seems fine, kind of play some pot control. We really don't have that good of a hand. I really don't hate the idea of a bet either here. There are a handful of straight draws like king queen and stuff like that, which we have unblocked, so betting here totally makes sense as well. At the end of the day, we decide just to check it back and play a turn, play some pot control. Turn card rolls off the 4 of hearts, really sort of an inconsequential turn card. It does bring in a backdoor flush, and it does pair the board in the form of a 4, so we're now losing to a 4, but there's really not that many new hands that players can now arrive with. The small blind player now leads for $25 off of a somewhat small stack. Antonio in the big blind puts in the call, and I really only have one option here. I don't really think raising ever makes any sense. We're only getting called by better if we do that. Folding, not really in the question either, just because we have top pair, played somewhat passively thus far. Pretty easy call here in my eyes. We put in the money, and we're still going 3 ways in position to the river. River rolls off the 9 of hearts, so backdoor flush coming in. Obviously not in love with it, even though we still make 2 pair here. We're just losing to a lot of flushes, I think. At least that's what I thought until we see the small blind check, and Antonio checks behind. I think both of these players would be going for value here with any sort of flush, any sort of straight, so pretty easy value bet now in my eyes. We can still get called by Jack X and maybe even 10X if we choose a somewhat small size here on the river, so that's what we're gonna go with. We make it $75, exactly half pot. Small blind pretty quickly folds his hand, and it gets back over to Underdog. He's in the bin for some time here. I ask him if he has King Jack. King Jack? King Jack?
Is King Jack good?
He doesn't answer. He eventually folds. We take down the pot, and I think we played this one okay. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below.
I got a heart in my hand. I would have called it.
The next hand off the deck, we look down at 10-8 suited in the big blind. It folds around to the cutoff player, who opens things up to $8. It folds back around to me in the big blind, and I'm happy to defend this one here. We got a suited 1 gapper, pretty decent looking hand for the most part. We get a flop of King 10-3 with 2 clubs. Really good start for our hand. We have middle pair and a flush draw. I'm going to check it on over in flow, and the cutoff player is going to bet $15. Once again, I could go both ways here. Raising makes a lot of sense. We have a pretty good draw as well as a pair. Happy to put more money in with that. In real time, we just put in the call, which might be a bit nitty, but you guys tell me. Turn rolls off the 10 of spades, and we now improve to 3 of a kind. We still have the flush draw to go with it. Really good turn card all in all. I'm going to check once again. We probably could donk on a 10 here. It's probably better for me than him. Nonetheless, though, we check it on over, and the cutoff player fires once again here for $25. I'm just going to put in the call once again. I probably should raise here sometimes, but in real time, we just put in the call. River rolls off the ace of hearts, and honestly, this feels like a really good card to get paid on. Either he just improved with some sort of ace-x combo, or he was just bluffing the whole way, and this seems like a really good card for the cutoff to bluff here against the big blind. I'm going to check for a 3rd time here, just playing this one super trappy. The cutoff comes with a half pot size. I don't really think there's much to do here except go all in. We can still get value from ace-x and maybe even king-x hands, and we have 3 of a kind. How can I possibly lose with 3 of a kind? We grip it and rip it for $210 effective, and we pretty much get snap called by this player. He flips over Jack 10, and we go ahead and chop the pot here. Really not that significant of an outcome, but it was a pretty interesting hand. I might have butchered it on the flop and the turn, but you guys tell me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. After going very thin for value there on that last hand, we look down at a hand now that is certainly not thin value. We look down at pocket aces in the cutoff position. We see an under the gun limp limp followed by a +1 open to $15. I mean, I'm happy to put more money in here. It's the best hand in poker. We make things $45 to go. It's going to fold back over to the +1 player who tanks for a bit and then eventually puts in $45. He's playing a pretty short stack here, so I think I can get all of the money in pretty easily here. Probably bet flop, jam turn, something like that. We get a flop of 6-5-3. Honestly, pretty bad board for aces. The +1 player is going to check over to me, and I just bet 30 bucks here, about third pot. Gonna have a lot of overpairs on a board like this when I 3-bet. We're playing a pretty short SPR here, so let's just get money in. We bet 30. He pretty quickly folds. Really nice pickup here. Happy to take the chips down. Would have liked to put more money in, but honestly not that big of a pot. Really super boring, honestly, but you gotta include pocket aces in your vlogs. Pro tip. This next hand is really creepy. Let's get into it. About 15 minutes after that pocket aces hand, we look down at king jack suited. In the low jack position, we're playing 1-2 once again. No straddle is on here. It's going to fold around to me, and I'm going to open things up to $15. Pretty standard open for the game we're playing. It's going to fold around to the small blind player, who's a pretty aggressive reg. I've bumped heads with him a couple of times at the Brook, as well as Gate City. Nice enough guy, just very, very aggressive, and honestly pretty difficult to play against. He announces that he's donating.
Yeah, can't tell.
I appreciate that, thank you. And then puts in a call. Like I said, really nice guy. Honestly, super thankful that he's donating to me here. That being said, we're going heads up to a flop in position with king jack suited. We get a flop of 8-7-3, two-tone board, 2 hearts. We have no heart in our hand. Honestly, in real time, I felt like this board was going to be pretty bad for my range of hands that I could have here. Probably favors the small blind flatting range if I had to guess. So that being said, when he checks it over to us, I'm happy to check this one back and try and realize some equity with our 2 overcards. Turn rolls off the queen of diamonds, and I think in theory land, this card is going to be better for me than him. I'm going to have all the best queens, hands like ace queen, king queen, obviously queen queen, and I don't really think he can have any of those as played. So when he leads into me here for $20, I'm just a little bit perplexed. Obviously this is a reg we're up against, a pretty aggressive one as well, so I'm not really sure what's going on here. I honestly didn't really know what to do against this $20 turn bet. Obviously it's about 2/3 pot, and folding here with king high, probably totally fine, but I was just sort of under the impression that he didn't have a real good hand. Like I mentioned earlier, this player is on the aggressive side, so obviously if he had a hand like queens, 8s, 7s, maybe even 3s, he would probably be doing some 3-betting from the small blind. So that leaves 2 possibilities of hands that he can actually have here, in my opinion. Number 1 is 2-pair. Number 2 is some sort of straight or flush draw. Obviously king high's doing pretty well against the 2 draws if he's got 2-pair, such is life. So all of that being said, I decided to float on the turn here with just king high, with plans of getting devious on the river. River rolls off the 10 of diamonds, so hands like jack 9 and 9-5 improve to straights, but the most obvious flush draw bricked out here, so that's pretty good news for us if we are trying to turn our hand into a bluff here. The small blind now checks it on over to us, so he took the check the flop, bet the turn, check the river line, and I'm just not buying what this guy is selling. I don't really think he can ever have that good of a hand as played. I don't even think I need to bet that big to get some of his hands to fold. We choose a size of $60 into about 72. He tanks, and he tanks, and he tanks, and he eventually puts in the call with 3-2 offsuit for just bottom pair. I was honestly super confused by this hand. How the hell did this bluff not work? How did he call me with just a 3? I don't understand. I feel like my line is fairly credible in terms of repping queen X here. Maybe I just got wrecked, maybe I have a live tell, but overall this just seems like a crazy call, and this guy wrecked my world here. Nice call, sir. You win the hand. I certainly will not be bluffing against you anytime soon. About a half an hour goes by. We don't really play anything all that significant. Probably a couple single raise pots that didn't go our way over the last half hour. Nothing super relevant. We have bled down about $100 from that last hand, so we're now stuck for the first time on the session. Honestly, thus far this session has been pretty mellow, not super swingy. We haven't won any massive pots. We haven't really lost any massive pots either. That bluff on that last hand was the biggest loss we've had thus far on the session, so for the most part, just kind of remaining stagnant, swinging up and down about 75 bucks at a time. In this hand, we pick up ace-king offsuit once again in the low jack. We see an under-the-gun player limp in here, and then the +1 player raises things up to $25. Pretty big raise here in a 1-2 game. This +1 player is relatively new to the table. Underdog poker took off, and this guy took his seat in the 1 seat. late, so new player. I don't know much about him. I have watched him play a little bit over the last half hour, and my read on this player was that he just didn't fold hands. I saw him show up in a couple spots prior where he had very speculative holdings at best. So with ace-king suited here, we have a very mandatory 3-bet, especially against a player that we don't think is folding all that much. We go ahead and make it 80 bucks to go, which is slightly larger than 3x just because, like I said, this player doesn't seem to want to fold too many hands, so we bump it up a little bit bigger than we should. After we make things 80 bucks to go, it's going to fold all the way back around to the +1 player, and just as we predicted, he rifles $80 into the middle pretty quickly. Heads up in position we go, and we get a pretty reasonable flop for our hand. We get king jack 6 two-tone board, 2 hearts and a club. The +1 player is going to check it over to us, and obviously we're going for value on a board like this. We choose a pretty small size of 1/3, which I think is pretty standard in a 3-bet pot. We bet $60. He thinks for about a second and a half and then calls. So we got a nice big pot brewing here, and we are going to the turn with about $285 in the middle. Turn rolls off the 9 of spades. It's not a heart, so with respect to that, I'm a fan of the 9, but there are hands like queen 10 that just improved. He could have 9s, I suppose, so it is somewhat kind of a scare card. He's going to check it over to us, and I think that we have a hand that just wants to go for value plus protection. I don't think this player would ever play jacks like this, so that really just leaves him with 9s if he decides to float this flop. Obviously, he could have queen 10 as well, but aside from that, we really can't make up any monsters under the bed here. We just got to put the money in and try and get value from worse, deny equity from draws and stuff like that. We jam it all in here for 307. He tanks for a bit and then eventually lays his hand down. We pick up the pot. Pretty good sight here. Honestly, this was one of the bigger pots we've won thus far, so pretty happy with this result, and we're definitely trending in the right direction with this hand.
Here, I know that how this works. Vlog it. Vlog this shit right here.
It's on.
It's vlogged. He's all in, huh? You all in?
How do I hit the high hand?
After my brief shift of working as a cameraman for the player to my left, I finally pick up a playable hand at 9 o'clock. We look down at king queen of hearts in the +1 position. To no surprise at all, the player to our right opens things up to $20. This is the player with very few folds in his range, so makes some sense. I'm gonna go ahead and 3-bet to $60 here. Maybe a tiny bit loose here, especially against a player who doesn't really ever fold. Maybe not great, but we put in the 3-bet nonetheless. It's gonna fold all the way back around to the under the gun player, and he puts in the call. We're going heads up to the flop with about 120 bucks in the middle. We go ahead and C3 here, and we get a pretty not great flop of 8-7-3 rainbow board. 3 low cards, we have 2 high cards, we don't have a pair, not a good flop. He's going to check it over to us, and we're going to put out a standard continuation bet here of $40. Maybe this isn't good, especially, like I said, against a player who doesn't really find too many folds. He pretty quickly puts in the call, and I'm not really in love with this situation thus far. Turn rolls off the 10 of clubs, and he's going to check it over to us once again. I think now it's just time to shut down. I'm really not confident in the slightest that I can ever bluff this player. That was just my read real time, so when he checks it over to us, I just tap the table. I'm pretty much done with this thing at this point. River rolls off the 5 of hearts. This player's going to check it over to us once again, and I think maybe I messed up here. Maybe I should just be betting. I feel like this player would likely lead with a lot of good hands on the river, especially when I like to check back on the turn. So maybe I should be firing in a bluff here, just trying to fold out some 8x or 7x or something like that. We end up checking back. Obviously, we can't win this hand when we just give up here. This one really pissed me off, guys. We lose to ace high here, and yeah, just not played well whatsoever. After that somewhat frustrating hand, I won't lie, I was a little upset. We go the next hour playing a bit too much, seeing too many flops, and overall we bleed down again from about 425 all the way down to about 300 bucks. Really not playing our best game, I don't think. Like I said, playing a bit too loose, a bit too splashy, and then probably a bit too passive post-flop as well. In this hand, we wake up with ace 5 of hearts at 10:15 at night. We're in the hijack position. We do have the straddle on here, so we're playing 1-2-5. We see the low jack player limp in for $5. I honestly thought he was raising, but he didn't verbalize the $25 raise. I was a bit confused here. I threw in $25. Again, just $5, so this looks a bit confusing, but it's mainly just because I'm an idiot. Following my limp and the low jack limp, we see the cutoff player, the button player, the big blind, and the straddle player come in as well, so we're going 6 ways to a flop here with $30 in the middle with ace 5 of hearts. We get a very beautiful flop here of king 10 deuce with 2 hearts. Phenomenal start for our hand. We have the nut flush draw going 6 ways. What could possibly go wrong? We now see the big blind player lead out for $25, which is almost pot. Super strange here. Obviously, it's unlikely that this is ever a bluff, but at the same time, this player really can't have kings and tens as played, so I'm a bit perplexed here. Following the big blind lead for 25, we see the lowjack put in the call. I have the nut flush draw. I'm going nowhere. I put in $25 more, and the cutoff player calls behind. So we're now 4 ways to the turn. The turn rolls off, and it's beautiful. The best turn card I could have ever asked for. It's the queen of hearts. We make the nuts. As of right now, we cannot lose this hand. Beautiful sight for us here. To make matters even better, we now see the big blind player continue to tell the story that he has a very strong hand. He's going to bet out for $50, coming pretty small this time, so definitely sizing down relative to the flop. The lowjack player gets out of the way. I could raise, try and get all the money in now, or I could just call, lay the trap. I think that's my best option here, especially against a very aggressive player here in the big blind. This is the player that called with 3 deuce earlier. He's definitely playing a high VPIP strategy right now, so I think honestly calling here is our best option. I put in $50, the cutoff player gets out of the way, and we're now heads up to the river. The river is the 7 of diamonds. Kept it super clean, no complaints whatsoever. We still have the best possible hand. The big blind player's now going to shovel chips in the middle here. He goes all in, covering us for about $208 effective. Obviously, we snap it off. He shows 10-6 of hearts, so he got flushed over flushed here. That's no good, sir. We have ace-5 of hearts. We're going to take down this $650 pot and add about $360 in profit to our stack. Really great way to end the night. This hand in and of itself is going to get us unstuck on the day and put us in the green overall. So I actually forgot to film an outro to this video, so rather than me sitting in my car talking to my phone, you're gonna get a video of my buddy Grant playing a slot machine. If you guys have ever played at Bally's in Rhode Island, Grant is the biggest whale in that room at all times. Shout out to Grant for making the trip up to New Hampshire with me today. Fun time as always. Today we played for about 4.5 hours. We were in for $500. We were out for $565. So a small profit of $65, amounting to about $14.45 per hour. Obviously, we didn't win millions of dollars today, but we had a fun time playing. It's always good to go up to New Hampshire and film some content up there. You guys really seem to enjoy the casino vlogs, so if you enjoyed this vlog, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, leave notifications on, and I will get you more content up in New Hampshire casinos. That's all I really got, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and until next time, Dookie Bets.